What you're looking at is the heavy cardboard wrapper for a print-on-demand product from Lightning Source through Drive-Thru RPG. I got the shipping notification just under 2 weeks ago from Drive-Thru, and what's inside the package is the Sprawl, which is, to my knowledge, the first cyberpunk-based role-playing game powered by the apocalypse, which sparked some very interesting innovations afterwards, some of which we looked at 2 or 3 weeks ago when I received my backer copy of The Veil. So, the reason why I'm showing it is that this is the premium hardcover version, which is the midnight edition, meaning that in the PDF the pages are all black, right? Which traditionally in print on demand has not been great, let's say. The evolution of full color print on demand hasn't really been bad, but trying to do an all black page, well, has been a challenge. This is Lords of Gossamer and Shadow, and you can see the edges of the pages are purple because the interior layout has primarily purple pages. It fades as you go toward the top, like you're descending into another world. It's kind of cool, but if you get really close, as you would holding the book to read, you'll notice the grain of the paper is quite visible through the ink. And when this book was new, these heavily inked pages were incredibly stiff. As it has aged, it's sort of relaxed a little bit, as do we all. But there is a distinct difference in quality when you turn these pages than from an offset press page or a full glossy page or whatever. There's something different about it. It stands out. Now, the colors in this particular book were very, very vibrant. And I'm making my way through these pages here to get to one very large illustration to show you. Of course, I just missed it, and now the pages are sticking. Anyway, there it is. Okay. So you can see that the colors in this book, and this is quite a few years old now, really pop. But I'll just get nice and close, and you can see the grain of the page through it. All right. Another quick example before I show you what we're actually talking about. This is the Blue Planet Game Master's Guide. This one will be similar to the Noon edition in that it's all white interiors with color highlights. This particular book focused on blues and reds, different types of blues, which matches its theme, of course. Very crisp, very clean. Doesn't stand out in any way as, wow, this is different somehow than an offset press book, which is kind of interesting. And when we look at how the book kind of hangs together and how it moves, it is a little bit different from the Sprawl in terms of the tightness of its spine, but it has a different spine design. That's probably enough examples, so let's do some more examples. This is Pirates and Dragons. This was the first premium hardcover, full color, that I got from Drive-Thru, and you can see it's very bright. Again, they go through a whole page color, but didn't go for black. But let's take a look at the blue section. Each chapter had a different color. Let's look at the blue section and see how well it holds its color. All right, all full bleed all the way to the edge, and only when we're really, really close, significantly closer than with Lords of Gossamer and Shadow, can we see the grain of the page. Now, what is this in contrast to? This is not full bleed. This is not a premium printing. This is a standard printing, and you'll note that there is a white margin around the edge of the page. I could make that a little bit more obvious by lifting the page here, or trying to lift the page, and comparing it to the page next to it. Okay? Imagine this were an all-black page with this white border or margin around the edge. So, let's return to the topic of the video, shall we? Let's open it up and see the Sprawl. Now, I've already, ripped through the glue, so we don't have the normal struggle, the one-handed struggle I have with opening the package. Ready? The spine is always upside down. Okay, the Sprawl. Great, here it is. The Sprawl. Hamish Cameron, hardcover, full color interiors, midnight edition. What is it going to look like? All right. Well, on the back, see, fake. Powered by the Apocalypse, we've got the Ardennes Ludaire logo, and we have our back cover image. We look, we see that the pages look mostly white, but as soon as we get it open a little bit, we see black. But look how this book is clinging together. It wants to stay closed. Very tight spine, very solid feeling book. Doesn't feel loose. There's a little bit of crack, as you move through the pages. And I'm going to handle it carefully at the beginning. But if you look at the interior pages, they're simply black. We have a wide variety of colors on the page, although primarily the color you're seeing is black. This interior image is a little pale, but that's not represented throughout the whole book, so I'm thinking that it was pale by choice. So here's my favorite quote for Cyberpunk of all time. Every time I see it, I end up reading Neuromancer again. And it's on my phone, so I'll be reading it soon. All right, so here we have the interior of the Sprawl. Black, pink, green, neon colors, just like the cover. Thematic all the way through. Very, very stiff. Lots of pages packed with information. The Sprawl. Hamish Cameron. All right, what else can we say? Surprisingly, quite a lot. Well, let's take it into different light and look at it some more. So you can see that the outside edges of the book look a little gray. We know that there's black pages in there, but it hasn't bled all the way to the extent of being purple pages like we saw in Lords of Gossamer and Shadow. The book sits nice and flat, even though I've been reading it, and even though its spine is so tight, which is reassuring. I was a little worried that the front cover would just pop up. That hasn't happened yet. Under this light, we can see the colors better than under the harsh fluorescence of the previous room. The neon streetlights theme predominates, but there's a lot of subtlety and range in the colors. It's really quite surprising and enjoyable to look at. And it's also a nice surprise as you turn an all-black page inside and stumble across another splash of unusual color. Here's the interior again. It's a little difficult for me to keep it in focus. My apologies. We can see that the pages are not glossy and neither are they a matte finish. Somewhere in between, and they're just quite simply black. It's easy to read, even in or under fluorescent lights. And the demarcation between zones of color is quite sharp. The text is crisp, and that spine, look how firm it is. Even just shaking it like this, it doesn't really want to open fully. So here's our flip through piece by piece. Bright blues, disturbing yellows, clean white, sharp blacks. All right. Now, as you go through an Apocalypse World rulebook, you find a lot of words in bold. They still pop even in this format. So making your way through the text, finding what you need to find when you need to find it, still seems to be quite easy. I did find the PDF a little difficult to read on my phone, a little bit too small. My tablet, it's perfect, but having it here in print is, I feel, the easiest way to digest the text the way that it's laid out. And as fate would have it, we're back at my favorite quote. So let's read it one more time just because it's so awesome. And it highlights the massive gap between the children we were and the children we've had. Now, just in case you can't have too much of a good thing, let's get in really, really close and take a look at the text and see what it really looks like if you're holding it up close to your face because you forgot your glasses. Right, so as you go through the book, it's very distinct as you find each chapter. The text is varying sizes, as you can see. And that brings us to a discussion of size. Here we can see the Veil, which I showed you a couple of weeks ago, lined up with a bunch of other Apocalypse World books. And you can see that size is pretty random. The original Apocalypse World is significantly smaller than the current Apocalypse World. Dungeon World is a little bit larger. Spirit of 77, a little bit smaller. Tremulous, a little bit bigger. Worlds in Peril is huge. And the Veil is somewhere in between. Well, how does the Sprawl fit into all of this? Well, I just rescued the Veil in time. How does the Sprawl fit in? Well, the Sprawl is of similar width, but definitely different dimensions than the Veil. Smaller than Tremulous, smaller than pretty much all the new ones. Everything's smaller than Worlds in Peril. So you're going to have a very interesting looking shelf, almost random, very eclectic, which perhaps matches with the indie nature of everything. More clearly, here's the Sprawl on top of the Veil. Here's the second edition of Apocalypse World on top of the Sprawl on top of the Veil. I know, let's get silly. Here's the Sprawl on top of Dungeon World on top of the Veil. And no, we're not done. Let's go to Tremulous on top of the Sprawl on top of Dungeon World on top of the Veil. Everything's just that little bit different. Tremulous, by the way, is also gorgeous. All right, here is the Sprawl on top of the Veil on top of Worlds in Peril. If you're looking to be #1, you have to make a book larger than Worlds in Peril, but smaller than the 8.5 by 11 or A4 size game book of tradition. Okay, don't worry. I'm not going to make any further size comparisons. And really, unless we start getting into Apocalypse World's sex moves, we don't really need to talk about size anymore. After all, size doesn't matter. So that's our rather in-depth and exhaustive look at how the Sprawl appears in its physical form. And just think, we haven't actually said anything about the game itself, how it plays, or how it adapts Cyberpunk to the Apocalypse World engine. I guess we'll have to save that for a future video.